The wind swept across the open plains like a whisper of fate, stirring the dust and bending the tall grass as the stagecoach rattled its way toward the lone ranch that sat against the golden horizon. Inside sat a young woman named Clara Whitmore, her gloved hands gripping the edge of the seat as though she could hold her dignity together with sheer will. She'd been sent there as a cruel joke by the high society women of her town, a spoiled girl, they said, who needed to learn what real work meant. They'd laughed as they arranged for her to be helpful at the Broken Spur Ranch, never expecting she'd survive a single day among the dust, sweat, and silence of cowboy life. But Clara wasn't the fragile porcelain doll they thought she was. Beneath the fine dress and soft manners was a heart that had grown tired of mockery and longing for anything real. When the coach stopped, the driver gave her a sympathetic nod before flicking the reins and leaving her in a cloud of dust. She stood there clutching her small bag, eyes wide as she took in the sight of the vast ranch, the lowing cattle, and the men who paused from their work to stare. Some smirked, others whispered. She was, after all, the city girl sent as a joke. Then she saw him, the one they called the silent cowboy, tall, broad-shouldered and steady as a mountain. He stood near the corral, wiping sweat from his brow beneath a wide hat. His name was Eli Ward, a man who spoke few words but carried a reputation across the plains. Some said he'd lost his family in the war, others that he simply found words too heavy to waste. Whatever the reason, his silence spoke louder than most men's noise. When his eyes met Clara's, there was no laughter there, no cruelty, just calm curiosity, like he was measuring not her dress or her posture, but her heart. "Miss Whitmore," the ranch foreman said gruffly, stepping forward with a look that told her he knew the joke. "Guess the ladies in town wanted to see if a silk ribbon could hold a pitchfork." The men chuckled. But Eli didn't. He just watched her, that unreadable gaze fixed on her trembling hands. Clara lifted her chin and said, "I may not know your ways yet, sir, but I learn quick." The laughter quieted, surprised by the strength in her voice. The foreman shrugged. "Fine, then. You'll help in the kitchen, maybe clean the tack room if you can handle the smell of leather." Hours passed. The sun sank lower, painting the land in orange and gold. Clara worked as best she could, her hands blistered, her back aching, but she refused to quit. When the water pail slipped and splashed across her dress, the other ranch hands laughed again, though softer now. Eli, who'd been nearby mending a fence, set down his tools and walked toward her without a word. Clara froze as he removed his heavy brown coat and draped it gently over her shoulders. "Keep it," he said quietly, his voice rough from disuse but kind. "Evening's cold out here." Then he turned and walked back to his work as though nothing had happened. Something in her chest stirred, something fierce and unfamiliar. No one had ever shown her that kind of silent respect before. The others noticed too. The jokes died down. The laughter faded. In the weeks that followed, Clara found herself changing. Her soft hands grew calloused, her fear turned into grit, and her delicate manners hardened into courage. She worked alongside the men, often in silence, but always with that coat around her shoulders whenever the night winds rose. Eli never said much, but he watched her progress, a small, knowing smile flickering on his lips when she managed to carry her own weight. One night a storm rolled over the plains, lightning tearing the sky apart, rain hammering the earth. The ranch hands scrambled to secure the herd, shouting orders and chasing strays. Clara, against all orders, ran out into the storm with a lantern to help. She found a calf trapped in the mud near the fence line and fought to free it, her dress soaked, her hair plastered to her face. Just as the lantern flickered out, a strong hand gripped hers, pulling her up and shielding her from the rain. It was Eli, without a word. He covered her with his coat once again, his eyes fierce in the flash of lightning. "You're gonna get yourself killed," he said softly, the most he'd ever spoken. "I couldn't stay inside while they struggled," she whispered, shivering. "Neither could I," he replied. They stayed there, shoulder to shoulder, the storm raging around them, but something even wilder stirring between their hearts. When morning came, the ranch was safe. The cattle counted, and Clara stood taller than ever. The men no longer saw her as a joke. She was one of them, strong, steady, and brave. Eli approached her quietly, his hat in hand. "Town'll be talking again," he said. "They'll say the city girl learned her lesson." Clara smiled faintly. "They can say what they like. I found something worth keeping here." His brow lifted slightly. "What's that?" She stepped closer, her eyes locked on his. "Something real." Eli's rough hands hesitated before brushing a strand of wet hair from her cheek. The silence between them wasn't empty, it was full of all the words they didn't need. He didn't kiss her then. He just looked at her like she was the sunrise after a long storm. Later, when she climbed up on the porch, she saw the other ranch hands watching her with quiet respect. The cruel laughter was gone forever. She'd come to the ranch as a joke, but she'd stayed because one silent cowboy showed her that strength doesn't always shout, and love doesn't always speak loud.